And we are back again with a new reaction video today. So, yeah. Hey everyone. As I said before, welcome back to another reaction video, a new one. Part 2 of Pieces of Gaster Volume 2. So, the link to this video will be down in the description below, just to get that out of the way. And be sure to give the creator some love and support for the work they did for searching and theorizing and coming up with the evidence to provide for these theories, because it's gotta be a lot of work. So, yeah. Give some love and support to Two Left Thumbs. Yeah. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button to support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button to be notified immediately when a new video comes out. And finally, if you have any videos that you want me to react to, leave it down in the comment section down below. I'll react to it as soon as possible. Now, with this all said, I think it's about high time we just start this reaction video. So, yeah. Let's begin, shall we? Okay.
Gaster, but it's also building off the idea that Gaster is the architect behind the events of Deltarune, that he might be the one creating that world during the opening sequence. The core is something created by Gaster when he was working as the royal scientist. There are these little pillars around the core, and when you look through the files of the game, these are referred to as darkness totems.
Darkness totems. Darkness totems. If that's not any reference to Deltarune, I don't know what is. Cause it would make sense that Gaster would know this again. I mean, I believe it, because Gaster's been in the void for who knows how long, and when the game is firstly released and the events probably already happened, and with so many genocide routes and pacifist and neutral and every person who plays it, that must mean Gaster has seen millions upon millions of possibilities, so it makes sense.
Their exact role isn't precisely known, but they could exist to create some sort of balance between the known world and the dark world. There's the whole idea that Gaster fell into the core, shattering his body across time and space. Maybe this resulted in the creation of the dark world, or maybe it simply sent a piece of him to the dark world. There's not enough evidence to state anything factually here, but it appears to be another piece of the puzzle of how the core, Gaster, and the dark world are all interconnected. A quick important note when I was talking about Gaster's followers, it's very interesting that all of them are found in Hotland, and that this is also how we access the core. The core clearly is very powerful and does a bunch of crazy things, including manipulations of time and space. Just to make sure we're on the same page, we have these 5 fully monochromatic characters. 3 of them we know are followers, those are the ones found near Hotland, and then we have the 2 others who kind of thematically, stylistically
the thing
match,
was
but
just
they are
really
instead
annoying me.
goners. But all 5 of them are clearly intermingled in this way. I'm probably going to collectively refer to them as followers, but yes, they are distinct. The way the followers kind of appear and disappear, blipping in and out of time and space, and this appears to only be happening in proximity to the core. There's like a very clear fracture in space happening near this area, made even more interesting by the fact that we have these darkness totems, and multiple of these followers show up in Deltarune in their normal non-gray follower state. And now tying things back to that ABC123A track, we hear 7 unique voices talking. Typically 6 has been a very important number surrounding Gaster. This is quite speculative, but what may be happening here is that we have Gaster and his 6 followers. We have met 5 followers in the game, and seemingly we are creating the 6th follower at the beginning of Deltarune. It was
so what, Chris is the 6th follower? a blink thing holding a soul that's just barely functioning for the body. That's pretty weird when you say it like that. That would mean by speculation, Chris was never born. The body was just created to hold a soul that we would possess and function the body accordingly, while Chris himself would just like try to live his life the best, but sooner or later his body will collapse one day. And when it does, we just appear. That's basically sounds like what you're saying. And strangely enough, that is horrifying if Gaster actually did that. Ugh.
Touched on briefly in the last video with the connection between the Goner assets during this creation and the Goner kid and the Goner clan, but now it just kind of comes together a lot more clearly. My brain is like geeking out really hard, really hoping that that has some significance. I guess we're gonna have to wait for the full game to see if that's built on at all. Seems really important. While we're talking about the Goners and followers, it's a good opportunity to discuss fun values in greater detail. We encounter the 3 followers at 61, 62, and 63. We have the sound test room at 65, and Mystery Man at 66. We are very notably missing 64. Is there anything special about 64? 8x8 is 64, 2 to the power of 6 is 64, which by the way, typing both of those out was fun, because the asterisk is also the 8 key, and that exponent key is also the 6 key, so you end up just typing 888 with a shift in the middle, and 266 with a shift in the middle. That's just me enjoying myself. The 2 to the power of 6 is maybe the most meaningful possibility because 6 is again important to Gaster. 64 is important both for computing and programming. Mathematically, it has a few quirks, but nothing that exciting. It's the smallest number with exactly 7 divisors, which most people, including me, don't know what that means without looking it up. But I'm planting here and now in case we learn that Gaster was divided into 7 pieces or something. It is also the index of Graham's number, which I throw out there for my own sake. Yay me, I matter. Graham's number. Boring. Graham games. Loads of fun. This is buried pretty deep in this video at this point. But yeah, maybe go check out my Let's Play channel. It was recently rebooted, it's still relatively new, but it's very highlight focused, and so ideally you can watch any video in any order and still enjoy yourself. I'll have a link in the description. That's some pretty lame, nerdy math stuff though. Who cares about that? Let's get back on track with this. If you want to read into numerology, i.e. horoscopes for numbers, and regardless of if you want to read into
This actually just lost me a bit. Yeah, this just lost me. But I think I barely understand what's going on with numerology. Holy cow, that's a lot to take
we're
in.
gonna. 64 is considered a number associated with, get this, self-sufficiency, the well-being of family, and determination. It's
64. 64 means all that. Dang. All those born on June 4th must have the best day of their lives. Because 6th month, 4th day, 6-4. Because, yeah. Can't compare to 6-4.
fun to add meaning to things that probably wasn't meant to be there. Probably the biggest thing that I could come up with is that there are 64 squares on a chessboard, something that is made more significant with the context of Deltarune being filled with game boards, especially a few actually checkered places, and the attention being paid to chess pieces throughout, especially the elusive knight. My other examples border on just plain jokes, but the connection of 64 to chess could be incredibly important. There's a potential that Gaster falling into the core is the event which caused the different fun values to exist at all. We're used to hidden acronyms in this game. Love is level of violence, experience is execution points, fun is likely something, blank universe number, with there being 100 unique universes created based on accessible fun values. In values 91 through 100, Goner Kid even laments the idea of alternate universes where perhaps they do not exist. There's a bunch else about alternate universes. It plays a bigger role in my Sans video. We have the very obvious connections to Gaster, but if we look at these more closely, potentially every fun value with a unique interaction connects to him. 1 to 39 is the wrong number song. Seemingly silly, but there is that connection of trying to call someone whose name starts with G. Most of those are pretty minor characters. And it wouldn't be the first connection of cell phones and Gaster that we've seen. Even if it could be any one of those, with Glad Dummy being kind of a stretch, a 1 in 6 chance is still pretty good. And yeah, it's not
Fun value being created by Gaster and all these events created by that one incident. I can see it happening. I mean, judging by how this all works, if I understand what I think I'm understanding, and seeing how all this works, it is highly possible that Gaster did create some of the fun values, and a lot of the other stuff is like, hey, this is just like a possible thing. Like there's at one time, like, you walk to the left, but in another timeline you walk to the right. So I think Gaster made more fun values, if anything else. At least that's my opinion on the matter. Can't really say for sure, but yeah, that's what I have to say about Gaster and fun values.
lost on me that there's 6 of them. Values 40 through 50 are unique calls from either Sans or Alphys. Neither are very significant themselves, but Sans and Alphys are the two who seemingly have actually worked with Gaster. We also have more cell phone interactions. As mentioned, there's the Followers and Mystery Man in that 60 range, Clam Girl / Goner in the 80s, and Goner Kid in the 90s, which, I should quickly point out, each span 9 fun values. I'm trying to keep an eye out for 9s as often as I am 6s, and 17s. Pretty much every number. And then going even further than that, G's are as close to a 6 as you can get while still being a letter. The only oddity is the Nightmare mode at 56 and 57. All this value does is add this silly Nightmare Snowman to the word search puzzle. The only thing I can think here is that Ice-E is never even seen elsewhere in Undertale, whereas they have a very notable presence in
I decided
there's maybe some bleeding between worlds happening here. I'd be curious if anyone else has any other ideas of what might be going on with those numbers and this creepy snowman. Toby has also been adamant that everyone's experiences with Undertale are canon, and that they are all really playing their own unique instance and universe. So fun could simply be one of thousands of variables affecting this minutely different universe, even if some only differ by fractions of a second spent on a task, or walking one step further to the left than someone else. So fun might not be as on the nose as universe number. After all, we know that it itself can be sliced further with fun values, typically not guaranteeing an event. Sure, you could get a fun value of 66, but there is that.
Yeah, that honestly makes sense. every single person that plays Undertale is generally making their own universe, timeline, and all that. And every time they replay, it makes a new one and a new one. So the timeline for Undertale could be, I don't know, over the 100 billions? Maybe even more? And depending on who picks what fruit, that certain timeline might have the most. I honestly hope it's Pacifist, because I'm not too keen on genocide.
Then an independent percent chance of actually encountering Mystery Man. So Fun isn't just a unique universe, it's seemingly a possible division of a possible universe. We're talking in infinites here. Captain Hype actually suggests either fragmented universe number or fragment universally numbered, which that concept would actually explain why some fragments can be further divided, but with a more collective number. I don't need to fully re-explain the man hiding behind the tree in Deltarune's secret room, but I did want to add something rather silly onto that. We access this hidden room by repeatedly entering and exiting this part of Deltarune's map with the flying Starwalker and the bell used to chase them off. This secret room has a random chance of occurring, although it's not linked to fun values as they don't seem to be present in this game, or any other equivalent. It can be randomly accessed on any game file, and we're left to question, why here? Redditors have pointed out the funny connection of the bird and the bell, perhaps each referencing a wing and a ding. That's pretty obtuse, but it's also so logical and so hilarious all at once, I can't help but kind of buy into that. So that's
That is probably the weakest connection to Gaster, but honestly, there's probably a lot more weaker comparisons to date, so I really can't fully say anything bad about it. Unless I want to be called out on it.
quite silly. I thought it was fun to add, but now we can talk more about some serious theorizing. Using this man behind a tree and his gifted egg as a jumping off point, I now want to talk about something new. I am leaning very heavily on the research done by P. Rise for this one. They have this awesome 5-minute video on memory heads in-game, one of the amalgamates. I want to borrow a few things there and lace it into my own stuff, but they deserve all the credit for doing the legwork and pointing out the significance to begin with. I'll have a link to their video in the description if you want extra information and their added take. It's well worth a watch. Before turning on the ventilation in Undertale's True Lab, you know, the place with the determination extractor that looks like a canine skull, a recurring piece of imagery between the Gaster Blaster Photoshop Flowey and Asriel's Hypergoner, and is filled with the amalgamates from the royal scientists' failed experiments with determination? Yeah, that lab. The spooky place that's critically important to Gaster. Anywho, we can wander around in that thick fog and interact with the refrigerators in this foggy room. There's something here. It feels warm and moist. Something in the shape of a man. It feels like it's breathing. It feels like a tree, ripe with delicious fruit. We seemingly have another instance of a man hiding behind or around a tree. And perhaps there is some significance to the way these refrigerators have this cryptic dialogue, the same way that Asgore's fridge is closely linked to Deltarune's hidden egg. I don't think refrigerators are inherently magic or anything. Technologically, I guess they kind of are, but it seems like more of a thematic connection. Memory Head is seemingly the only amalgamate that isn't made out of recognizable monsters. It's just a goopy pile of horrific faces. Interestingly, it has a face-based attack that looks a lot like the spooked Mystery Man. The game files refer to them as freak bullets. One of the special attacks this being has is the ability to add a piece of itself into your inventory, which is labeled as bad memory.
That is a strange thing to put. That doesn't really make sense how that would fit. Bad memory? Like they just put their bad memories into you, or they put something that brings out bad memories?
Consuming it hurts the player,
That's,
unless you have 3
kinda
HP
crazy.
or less, at which point it acts as a full heal. They also like to repeat the phrase, "Come join the fun." Fun isn't capitalized, but I wouldn't totally discount the significance of that. P-Rise goes a lot further with this information from here and makes some really cool links to themes within the game and how that might be built on in Deltarune. So please don't think I've spoiled their full video. I borrowed like 2 of those 5 minutes. So still, give it a watch. I want to draw some further links behind the character hiding behind trees. A creepy, inexplicable amalgamate that uses the Mystery Man face, being gifted an abstract piece of oneself with a mysterious purpose. Our gift of the egg, with its baffling properties of teleportation and duplication. Gaster seemingly being shattered across time and space, and this particular follower claiming to hold a piece of Gaster that itself is kind of egg-like. Coupled somewhat tangentially with the warning from the river person to beware the man who speaks in hands. We've come to commonly associate that with the use of Wingding's font, but this is something that physically speaks from within someone's hands. They are speaking in hands. Also, I don't know, Papyrus has an egg, and Temmie, there's a lot of eggs. I'm not certain all of them are literal eggs. Or any of them? I don't know anymore. Sans bakes a quiche? Let's move on from eggs for a minute. I have some of my own stuff I want to build on with Memory Head.
I mean, I guess it fits. But no, I think it's Wingding, because technically you can use your hands for Wingding. At least some forms of it. Right? I don't know the capital. Note the capital in lower case.
This being appears to have 6 unique sets of eyes. That is obviously important. Some of them even have little streaky bits, but they're not as well defined as Mystery Man. There is this one stray bone to the side, a lot like a spinal cord, linking all of this somewhat to the Skeleton Brothers. It all kind of comes together to give Memory Head a vague appearance resembling a brain. Which I guess, in a reductive way, a brain is simply our head's memory storage. The memory heads, as it were, are constantly glitching out, with their sprites tweaking, text not appearing properly, and these random strings of red text. They supposedly smell like batteries, and only speak normally when interacting with it using the cell, claiming that we hear voices coming through the receiver. Most other interactions instead lead to these dial-up sound effects, which are not precisely what we hear in Entry 17, but people commonly compare the two.
There are similarities. Not identical, but there are some things that sound the same. So it's technically not wrong to say that they're the same to a degree. That is all I'm going to give it. They're similar to a degree.
We know that connections in general are important to Deltarune. Why not use a direct internet connection? And the cell phone has added significance, especially with how it interacts in Deltarune, playing the Entry 17 sound effect. There's a lot of stuff going on there, with a character I never really paid much mind to. One thing this enemy asks is lorem ipsum docet. Lorem ipsum itself is a publishing joke, as it's used as placeholder text. It doesn't really mean anything by itself. So this may have just been Toby having some fun. Some stray Latin, looks kind of cryptic and mysterious, but people who know more about this than me have said there's more of a play on it than just that. The full usage, lorem ipsum docet, translates roughly to pain teaches. Perhaps the learnings gained from a bad memory, especially when someone is on the brink, 3 HP brink, or perhaps it's a reference to accepting pain and seizure in the Deltarune opening segment. As more of a simultaneous theory and Easter egg and evidence, Memory Head resembles Earthbound's final battle against Gigas. The music in this battle takes samples from the Gigas battle, and the flavor text, but nobody came, also build off.
I mean, I guess I can kind of see it, considering that Toby made an Earthbound game, so I can see why one would assume it. So
off
Yeah.
that reference. We know Toby is a big Earthbound fan, what with the Halloween hack. There's other references sprinkled throughout. So they may
Exactly.
seem like fun Easter eggs, lowercase fun, with Toby obviously being a huge fan, but the sounds and aesthetics were also repurposed for the same Goner Maker sequence of Deltarune. It's unclear exactly what all is being said with the memory heads, but their role and purpose in the larger story of this world is clearly significant. I can't speak to this one myself, so I basically just have to read you the word-for-word comment from user Lavos. They had an interesting note to add about Chrono Trigger. Gaster's theme sounds remarkably like the beginning sealed door from Chrono Trigger. And even uses a piano sample from that game. Obviously, we're no strangers to sealed doors. That song is the theme of Balthazar.
They created the Ocean Palace,
which inspired the core, which of course Gaster is credited with creating. Balthazar, Ocean Palace, Gaster, core. Both of them are said to have vanished across time due to a disaster in the Ocean Palace or the core respectively. I already talked about the connection with the dark winds blowing.
I haven't played Chrono Trigger.
I guess Toby really likes these games, if he's willing to reference them. Then again, I can't blame him. I mean, I'll probably do the same thing for my favorite games, so... yeah, I could see why that would be the case. Pretty sure everyone would try to put their favorite games, or a bit of a reference to their favorite games inside.
Myself, I know it's a great
So,
shame
yeah.
of mine.
But I've also seen people draw connections to the time egg in that game, and an apparently significant scene that involves a lone island with a standalone tree. We're really blurring the lines between hidden secrets and straight up references. I guess that's what takes a good Easter egg into a full-on Gaster egg. Good old Gegs.
Going back to that vessel creation, one of the most direct connections to Gaster is the song in the background being another hymn. The all-capitalized hymn is something also very heavily tied to Gaster. And while we're chasing this idea of maybe creating another Gaster follower, we have characters like this saying that they're carrying pieces of Gaster. If we're making another hymn and we're making a vessel, then perhaps we are making something that can house a piece of Gaster. I hope you guys can follow my logical through line on that one. I'm not saying this specifically is related to Gaster, but it's not the only time we seem to have an example in this game of something housing themselves within a vessel of sorts. That's a lot of step laddering and...
I mean, if we do that, and we can just say a piece of Gaster is like ridiculously strong, I guess we can do a power scaling on how strong Gaster really would be. And if it turns out that he's stronger than even Omega Flowey, and that's only a part of him, that would mean that Gaster in full would be stronger than anything we would ever have faced. And that's without the powers of the Void. Oh my gosh, that'd be a nightmare. I just had a chill thinking of that.
intertwining building of theories and connections and all that, so I'm going to take a step back with a few things that are a little simpler, and some that are just straight silly.
There's some interesting things you can do with alt codes, simply holding alt on your keyboard and then typing things out in your keypad. A very simple one that I want to quickly throw in is that simply doing alt 6 produces a spade. Maybe that would better fit in my Sans video, but I'm putting it here. When you enter the Dark World, the executable game file is retitled to The Dark. When you die, it also switches to The Death, but that seems to be quite unique, and I'd rather specifically look at The Dark. We have had the recurring inclusion of Don't Forget, and its obvious significance, and the final line of that is Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark.
Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark.
That's a creepy thing to say, to be honest. That would just basically sound like anything is with me in the dark. That's basically saying Gaster could be right behind me and I would never know. That is the creepiest thing they ever say. Why would you ever do that?
Perhaps this isn't just an abstract concept of shadows, but instead a very literal neon sign pointing at the dark world. For this next one, I'm going to paraphrase and build off a really cool theory presented to me in the comments as well. Apparently, this series has some extra layers for Swedish players. Frisk, Chris, and Gaster all have direct translations to healthy, crisis, and guest. We have some possible interpretations of perhaps why Frisk represents a healthy being, or that Chris is someone who is directly in crisis, or the cause of potential crisis. But the most interesting one seems to be Gaster as a guest. It's rude to talk about someone who's listening. Becomes a lot less creepy if we instead interpret this as us, the literal real-world player being the guest. We are always listening, and the many of us creating millions of saves shattered across time and space, it just really seems like it would be a really neat fourth wall break direction for this mystery to go. But it would discount so much of the in-world evidence and direct references to the real Gaster, who they were and what they did before we ever entered its world. There's ways to read deeper into that one. I liked it enough to share. I don't really personally invest in this theory. I think it crumbles quite quickly. I had originally included this annoying dog theory as a way to get this video up to 17 minutes and 17 seconds exactly. I kind of stretched a few things towards the end of the video, as I thought that would be a fun Easter egg for anyone watching, but YouTube literally never reported the video length correctly. In fact, it gets it wrong in several different places, completely ruining my plan there. I'm still going to leave this in the video for the sake of posterity and the interest of comprehensiveness, and because it gives me a good laugh. I laid out precisely how and why I believe it makes sense that Mystery Man is Gaster, but I thought I should draw attention to another funny theory that exists out there. The first place I ever saw this was from a forum post by Tadazi. They aren't a fan of the whole Wing-Ding Gaster and Mystery Man connection, so their silly simple thing that they came up with is that WD instead stands for White Dog Gaster. Their simple summary is that annoying dog is Gaster. Travels through time and space, he created the world, including the core, he fell into his own creation, Undertale, he's seen the timelines because he wrote them, he's everywhere.
Now, that would be like a gag mention. Like a gag story. Like a gag manga. Or gag series. Like something to poke fun at. Something that just makes no illogical sense, but it's hilarious at the same time. That would probably be the thing that would exist. But still, no, I
He's
don't
listening
believe
to
that.
us, he's on the forums, on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Reddit. But since we largely know that the annoying dog is also a stand-in for Toby, this is kind of saying that Toby and Gaster are one and the same. There's something fun to kind of latch onto there. This is more of just like a silly throwaway idea than a concrete theory. But while sitting here meticulously drawing out all these dots and connections, it's funny to just take a step back and have a laugh at something like this. I don't actually put any stock into it or take it seriously. One last time, I'm going to remind you guys to head over and wishlist Dead Estate. That comes out in 1 month. I had a decent amount of this researched and recorded ahead of time. I always knew I was going to revise this video. Man, turning it around in like 24 hours with the announcement of Deltarune Chapter 2 was a lot of editing. But there, I have all the possible things related to Gaster from my brain and from where I could find around the internet put into these 2 videos ahead of that release, assuming that we're going to have all sorts of new evidence very shortly here. If you have any theories or connections of your own, absolutely dump those in the comments. But I'm happy to release this like hours ahead of that second chapter coming out. I can't wait to dig into that. I'm doing a live stream of it tonight. That'll be on the Let's Play channel. I'll have a link down below. You should definitely come and join in. I'm going to keep it semi-casual, but I'm sure there will be some light theorizing throughout. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to patrons of the channel for their support. What a wild ride it's been. I hope to see you all again soon.
So that was interesting. Now that last theory, I don't believe it. Like, the dog being Gaster? No. Maybe like a gag thing, like I said before. No. I think the Mystery Man is Gaster, because literally he's the only legit character that I can think of that could actually fit Gaster. And is the only character that would show resemblance to everything relating to the name Gaster, so. in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that piece. But yeah. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button to support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button to be notified immediately when a new video comes out. If you want to see the original video, check out the link below in the description to see it all played through. Not to see it in parts, just see it 100% yourself. Leave in the comment section below any videos that you want me to react to. I'll react to it as soon as possible. Now with this all said, hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.